Good morning. Welcome to winter term 2019, our 9th year of winter term, the best winter term yet, of course. Mr. Griffith can work a stage, yeah? I often have had the honor of kicking off the term with a few words to get us oriented to this different approach to school, and I'm excited to do that again. I'm not really a church guy, but over the years I've come to enjoy learning in the chapel, especially from you and my colleagues. We're so fortunate to have this time and space to share our past experiences, present hopes, and future dreams. Not every school has prioritized community gatherings as Brooks has. Mr. Ulrich, who was our Dean of College Counseling before Mr. Campbell, visited over the break and told me how much his new school, Gulliver Prep in Miami, would benefit from time to reflect and celebrate together. That was also true at some of my previous schools, and one of the reasons why Mrs. Latham and I chose Brooks when we were looking to return to New England from Ohio in the spring of 1997. Sometimes what I learn in the Ashburn Chapel helps me understand my students and my colleagues better, as talks this fall by Mr. Powell and Mr. Graham did. Senior speeches to come this spring will do so as well. Sharing their histories, their joys, their choices, their challenges, it benefits us all as we struggle through and reflect upon our own lives. Often we get advice. Interestingly, that advice is usually for us to do something that the speaker did not and wishes he or she had. And my talk is in that vein. My students know I grew up on a small farm in a small town in southeastern Massachusetts. So let me show you one of my favorite photos of that. It's not Pebble Beach, although that's quite nice. So that's me, and with the yellow shirt on, and my brother Adam and my sister Tammy and our cow Babe. Not pictured is our cat, Orange Cat, and our dog Spot. I lived in a pretty small, predictable, and very white world of school and church and chores, surrounded by a lot of family and friends. When my parents moved 15 minutes away from my grandparents, you'd think we'd moved to California. That was rebellious in my family, and I tended to stick to what and who I knew. I went to school with the same kids since kindergarten. I had the same friends. I favored activities I was pretty good at and tried to avoid those I wasn't. The more likely I was to struggle, the more anxious I got, and the more I avoided. When we went on vacation, we tended to go to the same places on Cape Cod or in Maine. We camped. I'd never been in a hotel or on a plane. When it came time for college, my dad said I could attend a school only as far away as he could drive in an afternoon. That was okay because I would be the first in my family to go away to school, and I admit that I was nervous. My grandparents and my aunts and uncles had not attended university. My mom had helped my dad work his way through a local college, and she took classes at night towards the degree that she would finish my freshman year. I applied to 2 schools, Bates and UMass. By the way, I don't recommend this as a strategy. While Bates would be an adventure, it also felt safe. We had visited Maine many times. 4 of my high school teachers, including my baseball coach, were Bates graduates. When the financial aid package at Bates proved more attractive than the one from UMass, the choice was pretty easy. For those of us from public school who don't have the advantage of a boarding school experience, college is pretty eye-opening. I felt like I'd stepped into a parallel universe of wealth and privilege that was unknown to me and frankly a bit overwhelming. I made friends from all over the country, including the first people of color I really came to know well, and kids with home addresses like Wellesley, Lake Forest, Conshohocken, and Fifth Avenue. Still, I would say I did not maximize the opportunities available to me at Bates, partly because I remained ignorant or unaware. I didn't know I could afford a junior year abroad experience, for example, so I never asked. and partly because I preferred to do what I knew and was good at, so I played it safe. What changed that attitude and perspective for me were two related gifts. First of all, I was hired as a counselor at Camp Pemigewasset in Wentworth, New Hampshire. During my sophomore year at Bates, I broke up with my high school girlfriend of 5 years, also not recommended. And for the first time, I did not want to go back home. One of my roommates was a longtime Pemi boy. He knew they were looking for a baseball counselor, and he suggested I apply. Pemi's a very traditional all-boys camp, founded in 1907. Growing up, I'd never known anyone who went to overnight camp, or to boarding school for that matter. I was one of 3 new counselors that summer, and I was challenged in many ways. For example, I hated the water. It's not really good at camp. When I was probably 7 or 8, I was playing football with some kids in an outdoor pool, and one of the kids thought it would be pretty funny to hold my head under the water for a while. So I got scared and panicking, started to flip out, really, and when he let me up, I came up gasping and coughing up water. That feeling of being trapped and unable to breathe became hard to overcome, and while I knew it was illogical, I avoided the water as much as I could. At camp, I was supposed to jump in the lake after reveille every morning, called a polar bear dip given the temperature of Lower Baker Pond, and learn to be a guard at free swim. Water skiing, which I'd never done, was a popular activity I was expected to supervise. So, not wanting to disappoint my new friends, I summoned up a little courage and reluctantly went through the guard training. I hoped no one noticed what a lousy swimmer I was or how much I was sweating into the lake. I passed and even gained a little confidence, enough to try water skiing that summer. It took a few tries to get up, but eventually I did, after having learned to let go of the rope when I fell, so as to not be dragged halfway around the lake. I still don't like to swim. My kids will tell you that Dad only swims if the temperature is over 100 degrees or we're in Florida during spring break. However, camp helped me overcome my fear of the water, and for that, I'm grateful. I'm also grateful that Karen Zolnay became the first female trip counselor. There we are at camp. That was in 1987, and Karen was a 3-sport athlete at Bowdoin and a record-holding member of the swim team. And as comfortable as I was with the new, Karen seemed totally cool and confident. She'd been hang gliding and surfing and scuba diving and rock climbing. She skied black diamond trails. She loved hiking in the water. She was a math and economics whiz, wicked smart. I was obviously way out of my league. Karen enjoyed doing and trying and learning. She didn't always look the smoothest, but that never bothered her. Over the years, she encouraged me to test myself, to explore and expand my universe and grow as a person. I'd like to think I've come a long way in terms of trying new things and in my willingness to take a risk. Last year, on our 50th birthday, we didn't swim, but we did climb Mount Washington. I'm the one half-dead one in the upper right. Here's where you come in. As most of you know, I think, I make the winter term course assignments based on your form, your selections, and a random number. In my ideal world, you would choose courses with subject matter that you're interested in, learning more about, or a teacher that you'd like to learn with. About a third of you seem to do that. Many of you choose classes to be with your friends or because you think a certain course or teacher will be easy. As a former student myself, I certainly understand this. Many of us, your teachers and parents, chose classes at university not because they were challenging, but because they were after 8 a.m. This is human nature. Sticking with your friends is understandable too, especially given the intensity of winter term courses. The Mr. Latham before camp would do the same. Playing it safe, however, doesn't help you learn or grow or to make new friends or to help you become more connected to Brooks. The Mr. Latham of today encourages you to take a risk, a road not taken. So this isn't my favorite Robert Frost poem, by the way, a graduate of Lawrence High School nearby, but it's certainly the most apt for today. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted I should ever come back. I shall be retelling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. Winter term was founded with the following qualities in mind: a focus on one course, emphasizing depth over breadth, project-based outcomes, collaboration among adults and students, interdisciplinary topics, and fewer time constraints. The process of learning, not grades, is most important. To have a successful winter term experience, you should engage with the material, your classmates, and your teachers. Make good decisions. Challenge yourself. Winter term is a great opportunity to do teaching and learning differently. Let's have fun learning in a different environment than we're used to, at a different pace, with new teachers and new friends. Let's make this the best winter term yet. Thanks.